Welcome to Holly Hill in historic Midway, Kentucky. I'm Ouita Michel, and this is Up Home. The food of Central Kentucky reflects who we are as a community. It's the intersection of people, places, and ingredients. And when we find our place in that community, we become part of the greater story, honoring our past and celebrating our future. Mountain Harvest explores the food culture of Eastern Kentucky by visiting with some of Appalachia's most influential women. Our first stop is Moonlight Meat Processing in Williamsburg, Kentucky. Inside this 34-degree meat cooler, sixth-generation farmer and restaurateur Kristin Smith reveals some of the secrets to the best hamburger I've ever tasted. Making awesome burgers is important to Kristin, but her mission is much broader and focuses on building community with locally produced food.
I feel like every small town deserves a great restaurant.
Yeah.
That they can claim their own. It's, the cheers of their town. And, there's a lot of Eastern Kentucky towns that are void of that. They need that.
They need that.
Big cities have plenty.
The Wrigley Taproom in downtown Corbin is one of those small town treasures that does so much more than serve great food. It's a business that makes its town stronger by supporting local agriculture and offering a place for the community to gather.
There's so much more than just like the operations of a restaurant.
Sure.
It can be like the bones and the hub of a community where business deals are made, where funerals are grieved and celebrations, engagements, and so much can happen in a restaurant.
It's also the home of my all-time favorite hamburger. I have to taste it.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh my gosh.
See? Cheers.
Oh.
Right?
That's the best hamburger I've ever had. I'm not kidding. It's the taste of the beef.
Did you hear that, Chef?
The two main secrets to the flavor of the burgers at the Wrigley happen right here at Moonlight Meat Processing. After the local beef is slaughtered, the carcasses are dry-aged, and then all the cuts are ground up together. This whole grind approach costs more, but the results are undeniably delicious. Kristin and her wife, Melissa Bond, are fiercely proud of their Appalachian roots. They both chose to return to southeastern Kentucky, where they carry on the farming traditions of their families.
You've told me this before, but I want to hear the story again of your grandparents and how you decided to come to the farm and what all that was about.
Well, I was living in San Francisco and finishing grad school, and my grandfather made the scary call that you never look forward to, that he has stomach cancer.
Yeah.
So he thought it was a good time to have that conversation about what's going to happen to the farm. He always kind of said, if you come back to the farm, I'll do this. Try to get me back home. And here I had wanderlust, living in China and San Francisco. And so I really thought hard about it that night. I literally had nightmares, just really angst-ridden about the farm ending on my generation. And so I gave it 2 days of thought and called him back and said, I'm coming home.
But you didn't know each other yet.
We didn't.
She was in
meet yet.
California.
Uh-huh.
And where were you?
I was here. I worked for the farmers market, and that's how we met.
At church.
Yeah, I was doing a training on some of the vouchers you can get, and we met there.
But then you got married. We're standing where you got married.
Yeah, we are.
This is kind of a sacred knoll for us.
Yeah, it's the most beautiful spot.
It's one of our favorite spots to really look over the farm.
Oh my God, yeah, the vista is incredible.
Melissa's work in bringing the arts to Appalachia through agricultural extension makes her a pioneer for rural communities around the country.
Kentucky is the only state that has, you have extension agents that teach nutrition and youth and farming.
Right.
Kentucky's the only state that has arts agents. And
you're an arts agent?
I
didn't even know that existed.
Yes. So
or you were when you first started.
So I started as that horticulture assistant, and then the opportunity to become an arts agent for this county came up. So I interviewed for that position and got it. And through our extension office, we opened a community arts center right downtown. where we taught all kinds of visual arts. We'd had community events, the farmers market hosted right there.
I'm so proud that Kentucky has arts. Do we still have those?
We do. And now I'm the director of the programs at the state level. So we're growing and we're expanding. And since then, 4 other states have launched similar programs. So we've been doing research on the national level. And out of Wisconsin, back in the 40s, there were some arts programming through Extension. And the program was called Putting the Culture Back in Agriculture.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that a good one?
Putting the culture back into agriculture is part of a shared vision, one with a history and one with many voices. The connection between food, farming, and the arts can be found in many of these voices, and our current Kentucky Poet Laureate, Crystal Wilkinson, is one of our finest examples. Crystal is also the keeper of some great family recipes.
So Crystal, what are we making here today?
We are making chicken and dumplings, which is a family favorite.
I had the chicken ready for you, but you typically boil your chicken up.
Yeah, I boil it on the stove with a little bit of salt.
When Crystal was growing up, chicken and dumplings was a staple favorite. Sometimes it was served as a side dish, and sometimes as a main course. Either way, the memories of making and eating family recipes keep Crystal in touch with her ancestors.
When you were growing up, how did you learn this from your grandmother? Did she teach it to you, or did she
Just by watching.
Yeah.
I just learned it by watching.
She didn't like you to mess around with her in the kitchen?
Not too much. It was more observing than like these are the steps. So almost all of it was through observation that I learned how to do it. So.
And by tasting and smelling.
Yeah.
And then the touch of the biscuit dough or the dumpling dough, does that matter to you, how it feels?
Yeah, it has to me, it has to feel like biscuits. Like it feels the same at some point before it sort of changes. And I do all of this, being a little bit more fancy than I am at home, but I do all of this by
I do that.
hand.
You cut your shortening in by hand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
What is this, the glass there?
So my grandmother would, she had plenty of rolling pins, and I do too, but she would, especially in the mornings, I don't know what it was about the mornings. Maybe she just didn't want to wash all those dishes, but she would use a water glass to roll out her dumplings.
Oh yeah, that is a nice soft dough.
Yeah, and so this is it feels good. This is perfect as far as I'm concerned. And then I just cut them all this way. And when I first started making dumplings, this is fun for me. Like I love this part.
Yeah.
And I usually make them big.
When she would do chicken and dumplings, did she put the chicken into the broth too? Or was it like the broth and dumplings?
Usually it was the broth and the dumplings.
So you just bring this up to a simmer and then you drop your dumplings?
Yes. Yeah. I usually do a tester to see how it does.
And then
I usually like it when it's rolling, and then
okay, I'm gonna bring the heat up then.
And I usually put them in one at a time. I don't know what the magic is of that, but so they don't get stuck together.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I'm okay if they do get stuck together.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're low pressure.
I think you can't have a expectation of a perfect dumpling. They just do their thing.
This is like a cross between a drop dumpling and a rolled and cut dumpling, because a lot of times rolled and cut dumplings are thinner, and they can get a little tough.
Yeah, that's what I don't like. I don't like the toughness of the
I think that's why your grandmother was using that glass, because you can't really press down on a glass. You can only go lightly when you roll with a glass.
Right.
All right.
And then I always just put in like whatever's left over. And like I said, I don't worry about lumps. And I think all this additional flour.
Oh, you just throw it right in there?
Yep. It makes lumps and it makes it a little thicker. And so I let them do their thing.
And you want me to let it kind of sit on a high heat?
Yep.
So as the Poet Laureate of Kentucky, do you feel that poets in Kentucky are specifically connected to place and to the land, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the writing that we do, Kentucky writers do, is even when it's not doing it directly, it does it indirectly. I was talking earlier about when I read like Wendell Berry's Memory of Old Jack, that I see my family in that, right? Like I see my family in it. It immediately makes me want to go stand in my garden when Old Jack is standing on the steps, and you feel Kentucky in those pages. You feel Kentucky in the poems, and it's an exacting process. I think it's there, and it sort of is cyclic. You read the work, you have a memory that sort of may start somewhere personal and then sort of trickles out like a ripple. And you see it go from the specificity of that particular poet, that particular poet's community, maybe that particular poet or writer's family. And then you see it sort of ripple out to the rest of us across the bluegrass.
Will you read me a poem?
I will. This is called Kitchen Ghost. Sometimes the dead appear in my kitchen. I feel my grandmother's hand patting mine when I make cake. Her head shakes no when I don't add enough eggs or too much butter. Sometimes she laughs and claps when the yeast rolls rise. She cuts her eyes and sucks her teeth when my dress is too short. Sometimes the dead just stand in my office when the emails glare, when the boss needs one more report, when the words I write won't come.